Fabulous Catering, literally just across the road here. When the cyclone came, we did the usual North Queensland thing, bought several cases of beer, a little bit of water, a little bit of the emergency stuff. It was quite interesting watching the main street when the cyclone was due to come in. It was a ghost town, there was no vehicles. There was the odd tourist though, and just next door to us here we've got Century 21. And I remember looking across the street, wind was blowing, no rain quite yet, but having a look at tourists looking at real estate through the window going, yeah, that house might not be there tomorrow, however. There were some people that just took it nice and casually, and there's some people that took it really seriously.
So in terms of your preparations for Cyclone Yasi, what do you remember of the event itself?
Well, for me, it was a really anxious build-up until the day because it was so long. So I think everyone was tense and just wanted to know what was going to happen and get it over and done with. Yeah, there was a real fear there, fear of the unknown.
Scary. And I was wondering, are we going to have jobs? What's going to happen? 24 hours before, when it wasn't determined where it was going to hit the coast. Yeah, it was pretty scary. I was up at Gelatin at the time and surrounded by big 60-foot trees. So we made the decision to go down to Cairns and stayed with my mum. The worst part was driving back to Gelatin at about midday the next day, wondering, is there going to be a house there? And that's pretty, that was the worst.
So was Cyclone Yasi seen as anything out of the ordinary down by boaties down here?
Yeah, absolutely. Normally, cyclone category 2, 1 or 2 comes through, and they're sort of saying, "I won't do any damage here. It'll be okay," and they don't move. But Yasi, when it was coming in, they were all, even the old salties that are normally weathered, and were quite happy to move up the creek. Even they were worried, and said it's the biggest one they'd seen before. So.
I was at Kuya Beach with my family and with my parents who are elderly, so it really made us feel very vulnerable at the time. We realised how close we are to the ocean, how much we are at the mercy of the natural resources or natural happenings. So it was a fairly scary time in the lead up, and a lot of concern from family who were overseas over that time.
We were pretty nervous, obviously. We again didn't know what to do. My wife and I have been up here quite a few years and been through a few cyclones. Again, very nervous. Got lots of phone calls from friends and family all over Australia and a few from overseas. That actually G'd us up a bit more. We being North Queenslanders, we kind of, it's just another cyclone. Yeah, because everyone else was so worried, that got us a little bit more worried.
Very stressful time, actually. It was loading up a car and trailers and going up the hill and figuring out a game plan, what it was, what the hell we were going to do when it hit. As it turned out in the tablelands, the wind came whipping around the back there, and it was probably a hell of a lot worse than it was in Port Douglas itself.
Was there ever a time that you guys didn't feel safe at all?
Oh, look, it was always on tenterhooks, You just didn't know what was going to happen. It was, moment to moment, hour to hour, and you didn't know. As I think most people in the area remember, it was we didn't know whether it was going to hit us right till the very last when it headed a little further south. So yeah, there was always that nervous energy floating around.
So Diane, working with Port Douglas Police at the time of Yasi coming, what was it like being in the office and trying to coordinate everything that was all the calls that were coming through?
It was a bit chaotic. I came in at, I think, 6 o'clock or 6:30 that morning because I knew we would get inundated, and I'd no sooner opened the front door and people were coming in the front door and phones started ringing, when they knew that, I don't think they even knew there was someone here, they just rang anyway. Mainly, should we leave, should we stay, what do? We don't have a car, we can't leave, we haven't got a car, tourists that fly in, come up by bus, they couldn't get out of town. Should we try and outrun it? And we're just saying, no, you'll have two options. You can either hunker down and stay put, or go to the centre in Mossman and ride it out.
Actually, my parents have a house in Mission Beach that got clobbered, and I went down to that area about 4 days afterwards when the road finally opened. And yeah, there was some pretty serious stuff down there, and managed to spend about a week with chainsaws helping them and their neighbours clean up, and it was pretty devastating all the way down again.
I don't think we've got the sufficient cyclone shelters and the like in the region to accommodate a storm if it did hit us. I think that still needs to be addressed. Something that's close and local for both Mossman area and Port Douglas, and not just one cyclone shelter to rule them all, if you like. Might have a level of wisdom, but these things pass and then we get complacent again.
And now 2 years on, you know, like even the other day when we had those little mini storms, like for 5 minutes, lots of wind, it was like, oh my God, I don't want this to happen.